For approximately 3,000 years, it has been lost. And this extraordinary object that can turn whoever possesses it into a superpower is at the coordinates you see here. So, where do these coordinates point? When you hear it, you'll say no way, and perhaps you will question many things. Well then, if you are curious about where the Ark of the Covenant, which is destined to be found by Hazrat Mahdi near the Apocalypse, is located, let's begin. Frederick A. Rogers was one of the extraordinary names in electrical engineering. Born in 1869, this genius man began his career as a humble mathematics assistant. However, over the years, he went down in history as a professor of electrical engineering and physics at the Lewis Institute, and later as the dean of the engineering faculty. But the main thing that set Rogers apart from others was his courage to push the boundaries of science. He was after something else. What caught his interest was neither the experiments in the laboratory nor the rise of industry. He was tracing the trail of a secret, mentioned in the Quran and the Torah, that is beyond even today's understanding, the Ark of the Covenant. When Rogers examined the descriptions of the Ark of the Covenant with an engineer's eye, he noticed something extraordinary. This sacred Ark, according to him, was not merely a religious symbol, but a very powerful technological device, a portable energy source. Allah Ta'ala told the Prophet Moses how and from what to build this Ark. Accordingly, the Ark was to be made of acacia wood. This tree is known for its durability and resistance to decay. It was a tree easy to find in the desert, yet not an ordinary one. Its dimensions would be almost the size of a refrigerator we use today. But the matter wasn't just about size. Allah commanded Moses cover its inside and outside with pure gold. We see that this substance, whose mystery we still haven't fully solved and which is considered extraterrestrial, is not an ordinary thing, as in the example of the Ark of the Covenant. Why would Allah Ta'ala specifically command that this Ark be covered with gold? This detail was striking enough to occupy the minds of scientists centuries later. Furthermore, a golden molding, a borderline, was to be placed around the Ark. This line symbolized an invisible boundary separating the sacred from the non-sacred. On the cover, 2 angels were to be placed. Pay attention here. These angels would be placed facing each other, their faces turned towards one another, their wings raised upwards and positioned to touch each other. The detailed measurements given to the Prophet Moses, the gold plating, the wood insulation, all of these seemed like parts of an electrical circuit. Rogers suggested that this structure was a basic capacitor, a system that stores electrical charge. And the most remarkable detail was the 2 opposing angel figures on the lid of the Ark. To him, these were positive and negative terminals. If an internal connection could be established, this system could potentially turn into a high-voltage electrical source. However, Rogers didn't content himself with just theories. It is said that towards the end of the 1930s, he tried to create a prototype with limited resources. Although official records do not confirm these studies, according to some sources, the experiment had to be abandoned due to uncontrolled energy accumulation. The experimental setup was destroyed, but rumors tell that a small-scale electrical discharge occurred and this posed a serious danger. Those who saw the Ark of the Covenant were mesmerized. Those who approached it faced death. Inside it were the tablets given by God to Moses, as well as belongings from the families of Moses and Aaron. Randomly touching the Ark meant disaster for a human. It is even known that Aaron's sons, Nadab and Abihu, lost their lives there because they connected with a forbidden fire in the shadow of the Ark. This brings the question to mind. Was this unknown fire actually an energy discharge accumulating inside the Ark during the time of David, while the Ark of the Covenant was being moved from one place to another? It was in danger of tipping over. At that moment, one of the men, with good intentions, reached out his hand to hold the Ark, and he immediately collapsed and died. Starting with the world-famous Indiana Jones, many films to date have included the Ark of the Covenant in their plots. This Ark was not an object that ordinary people could lay a hand on. Even during transport, direct contact with it was forbidden. The Ark had 4 golden rings on its corners. It was to be carried using long wooden poles inserted through them. This allowed it to be carried without anyone touching it, maintaining distance. It was almost as if it were a nuclear device, subject to special protocols. Some sacred texts describe that those who carried it had to cover their heads, lungs, and reproductive organs. These protective measures resembled the precautions taken for devices emitting dangerous radiation in the modern era. And there is another disaster that befell those who did not heed these warnings. Some of the people of Beth Shemesh, despite the Lord's warnings, curious, attempted to look inside the Ark. And according to some translations of the Torah, 70 people, according to others, 70 people, lost their lives. The Ark of the Covenant was not only a sacred relic but also a weapon of war. The Israelites would go to war with it. One of the incredible events also happened during the Battle of Jericho. The Israelites walked around the city of Jericho with the Ark for 7 days. They needed to circle the city walls along with the Ark of the Covenant for 7 days. When the 7 days were completed, the city walls suddenly collapsed. Without any intervention, archaeologists found that the remains of the walls in Jericho had collapsed outward, not inward. as if they were destroyed by a sudden force from within, not by an enemy attack. This brings to mind an acoustic energy, a frequency attack. One of the unknown powers of the Ark of the Covenant, the sacred Ark built by H.C. Moses, was first carried through the desert. Then, it was placed in the Holy of Holies room in the first temple, built by H.C. Solomon, the son of H.C. David, and began to be preserved there. However, in 586 BC, the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar attacked Jerusalem, razing Solomon's temple to the ground. The Jewish people were sent into exile, and that was the moment the Ark of the Covenant disappeared. From that day to this, the whole world debates where the Ark of the Covenant is. The Ark of the Covenant had suddenly vanished from the stage of history. Some sources claim the Ark was taken to Babylon by Nebuchadnezzar, while according to others, it was secretly smuggled out by priests before the siege of Jerusalem. Some say it's in Ethiopia, some say in the deep vaults of the Vatican, some say it was found in the excavations of Hagia Sophia or Tarsus, and according to some, it is now hidden in one of the world's coldest and most inaccessible places, under the glaciers far from human sight. Well, now we have come to that striking declassified document that takes the claims about the location of the Ark of the Covenant a step further. The American Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, is not just an organization that conducts espionage. This institution is a power that closely monitors, controls, and when necessary, directs political, military, technological, and even mystical developments in the world. During the Cold War years, they didn't just watch enemy states. They also ran secret projects with large budgets on topics such as paranormal research, mind power, remote viewing, telepathy, and consciousness transfer. And now, they are before us with a very bold document, dated December 5, 1988. This document was prepared using remote viewing methods within the scope of a secret reconnaissance program called Project Sunstrike. The document's purpose is clearly written. Task: access the target at the given coordinates and describe it. We see a coordinate here. I will come to this part shortly. Returning to other notable parts of the document, the viewer, codenamed Viewer 032, is given only the coordinates without any information. His task is to describe the object at the coordinates. According to the document, it is clearly stated that the target is the Ark of the Covenant. CIA Agent 032 describes what he saw during this reconnaissance as follows. The target is a container. Inside this container, there is another container. The target is a structure made of wood, gold, and silver. It is shaped like a coffin and is adorned with seraphim figures. This target is located somewhere in the Middle East, because the language spoken there appears to be like Arabic. Among the surrounding structures are mosque domes. The people seen in the area are almost entirely in white garments. They have black hair and dark eyes. One figure specifically focused on has a black mustache. The target is hidden, underground, in a dark and humid environment. All the characteristics related to the target's location are described in this way. The target's purpose is to bring a people together. This situation is connected to a ceremony, commemoration, tribute, resurrection. The target possesses a quality related to spirituality, knowledge, lessons, and historical knowledge far beyond what we know now. The target is guarded by entities and can only be opened by authorized persons when the right time comes. Therefore, whether this container can be opened now or not will only become clear when the right time comes. When the time comes, the locking system mechanism inside the container will be found to be quite simple. Those who try to open it, meaning the unauthorized or those who attempt to force it open, will be destroyed by the guardian entities through a power unknown to us. Well, now we have come to that exciting part. The coordinates given in the document. However, it is worth adding a small but important note here. Although this document presents impressive details, not all experts treat this mentioned discovery with the same seriousness. Joe McManigal, a retired U.S. Army major who worked for the CIA for years and is known as Remote Viewer Number 1, states that such sessions are not necessarily reliable for finding historical artifacts. Only God knows the truth, of course, but I think even if they had captured it, they wouldn't say, "Here it is, the Ark of the Covenant," anyway. There is a remarkable situation regarding the coordinates in the document. In the descriptions related to the location of the discovery, it was stated that the Ark was in a place in the Middle East, but strangely, when I entered the coordinates written in the document into the Google Earth application, it took me to a completely different and very striking place. To one of the most isolated and ice-covered regions on Earth, Svalbard Island. The most notable feature of Svalbard Island is, you will recall, the Doomsday Vault built there. Officially named the Svalbard Global Seed Vault, it is a massive backup center built inside a mountain on the Norwegian island of Svalbard near the North Pole, established to protect the seeds of all agricultural plants in the world. Opened in 2008, this structure was designed as a kind of backup life insurance for humanity in case of a possible global catastrophe, war, famine, or climate crisis. Inside, millions of seeds, from rice to wheat, corn to tomatoes, are stored under special protection at -18 degrees Celsius. Even if the electricity fails, the environment is naturally preserved thanks to the polar cold. The hope for humanity's survival in doomsday scenarios lies in this depot under the ice. It is truly remarkable that the coordinates in the CIA's Ark of the Covenant document point to this island. This situation inevitably made me ask the question, did they capture the Ark of the Covenant from the Middle Eastern country mentioned in the document and bring it here? And immediately, a news story I told you about years ago came to mind. A story published in the UK's popular newspaper, the Daily Star, had caused a great stir worldwide. According to the report, during excavation work around the Kaaba in 2015, it was alleged that the sacred Ark of the Covenant was also discovered among the mysterious historical objects found deep underground. But the most interesting part of the story begins here. The newspaper claimed that the Ark was secretly handed over to the Russians by Saudi Arabia and taken by the Russian army to an old Nazi base in the glaciers. It was even suggested that the famous crane accident that year at the Kaaba, which killed 107 people, could be linked to this operation. Something had gone wrong during the removal of the Ark, and the incident was presented as an accident. Furthermore, a remote ice church built by Russia in one of the remote corners of Antarctica around that time was also part of this theory. Could the place mentioned in the document as Antarctica actually be Svalbard Island? So, the new information we are discussing today seems to somehow overlap with these old but still mysterious rumors. The world may currently be on the verge of not only a political, economic, or technological transformation, but also a deep unknown shift, because ancient and sacred objects, hidden for thousands of years underground, under glaciers, in labyrinths, seem to be beginning to stir. Will the world be ready when the truths are revealed? In the next video, we will examine another very striking development. See you soon.